All right, Jesse on Fire, welcome back to the channel. It is the day after Thanksgiving. I owe you guys a video, so I'm gonna warn you in advance. We're gonna talk about some things that I've been talking about very recently, like a lot. However, while I was taking a shower this morning, while I'm in the shower, I have a little portable speaker that's waterproof. I bring it in the shower with me and I watch, I listen to videos, whatever. So I just happened to pop a Mixed Molly video on this morning, right? And then the follow-up, like the autoplay one, ended up being the Conor McGregor, The King is Back video, right? So that's the video that he did right after Conor knocked out Cowboy, right? And it was like, wow, flawless victory, Conor's back, yada, yada. And I know I've been talking a lot about the Khabib and Conor rematch, right? And I've been very confident, okay, like very confident that that's the fight that's gonna get made. And I think I mentioned in one of the videos how passionate Dana was about making that fight. And I realize now I was just doing that on memory, right? I remember watching Dana and going, wow, like he's gonna make this fight. Like he's gonna make it. And here's the thing. So that press conference that I was referring to was in the video, all right? So it was in Mixed Molly's video. And so I pulled it and I'm gonna show it to you guys right now, all right? So this is what I want you guys to understand, all right? So now I've talked about all this before, but I want you guys to understand all of this going into watching this, right? Again, recapping things I've already talked about, but important to note prior to watching this, right? So number one, Dana is not a regular CEO that is kind of like looking purely at the bottom line, okay? UFC is an explosion of his passion. He loves the UFC. He loves the fight promotion business. It's all he's ever wanted to do. And making huge fights, he genuinely cares about that. Like it's like a really big deal to him, okay? Two, he is trying to beat boxing, right? And I can promise you, it sticks in his craw that UFC doesn't have the biggest pay-per-views, that boxing still has the biggest pay-per-view events ever, right? He wants that. He wants to overtake that. He wants the biggest event ever to be a UFC event, for sure. Huge goal of his, guaranteed. So he also, like I've talked about before, he still talks about how pissed off he is that the Brock Lesnar and Fedor fight didn't get made when Fedor was still undefeated. Like, it still pisses him off. If you ask him about it now, he'll still go, so those guys are fucking idiots. Like, still. Okay, so like he doesn't like leaving fights on the table. He really doesn't like leaving big fights on the table. All right. So right now you have Conor McGregor. The table that you have set in front of us is you have Conor about to fight Dustin Poirier, right? And here's the other thing that you need to keep in mind. Okay, I'm going to show you an interview with Dana, and I'm going to show you an interview with Conor later. And everything that that you need to understand that about Dana, and then what you need to understand about Conor is that COVID blew everything up, right? Like you almost need to take everything that happened from the end of, or like from like March to now as like wipe the slate clean, like you almost have to transfer yourself back to February to really kind of get a gauge on where people's heads are at, right? Because Conor wanted to do his season, right? Like he wanted to do a season, then COVID happened and the UFC didn't want to have Conor fight when they're not getting gate money, right? So like Conor like fake retired and all that stuff, but Conor, this interview happened, the interview I'm going to show you of Conor happened in November of 2018. Yeah. So like right before, a couple months before he was going to fight Cowboy, he did this interview in Russia. I'm going to show you that too. All right. But first of all, here's the Dana interview. All right. Now you tell me if you think that Dana is going to try to make any other fight besides Conor and Khabib, assuming that Conor runs through Dustin. Watch this interview and then tell me that you think that Dana is lining up a different fight, all right? Watch.
Khabib's the fight to make. It's the fight that you make. It's the fight that makes sense. It's for the 155-pound title. I'm telling you right now, Khabib versus Conor is the biggest fight in the company's and the sports history, but I think it might rival Conor and Floyd. I gotta see what he wants to do. You know what I mean? I know he wants this fight, and I think he's willing to wait to get it.
Okay, now if that's not convincing enough to you, because listen, like everyone follows their incentives and their motivations. Okay, do you think that something major has happened, like in the last year or whatever? Like, seriously, like Conor fought less than a year ago, right? Like that interview that Dana did, that's less than a year ago, right? Do you really think that something's changed since then, in terms of what Dana thinks is the biggest fight, potentially the biggest fight in history that could potentially do more pay-per-views than Mayweather-McGregor. Like, do you really think that he's not going to try to make that fight after watching that? Seriously. Like, seriously. That's the whole point of me doing this video, is I saw that interview and I was like, man, I've been talking a lot about this, and I had the image of that interview in my head, and I realized I hadn't shared it with you guys. And so now I'm sharing it with you guys. Okay, so do you guys seriously believe that he's not going to try to make that fight? Come on, man. That's 10 months ago. That's 10 months ago. I know it seems like a different, like, lifetime. That's not that long ago, right? So think about that, and then let's think about Conor. Now watch this. Now, first of all, before I even show this part to you, I do believe that Conor's approach to the Khabib fight is going to be different. I don't think he's going to do this because he talks shit in this one. You know, in this one, he's running his mouth, obviously, and he's trying to bait him. You know, he's trying to make it where, like, this rivalry is hot. This is a hot rivalry. And I think, again, my prediction, because Conor's definitely going to try to get that fight. Definitely going to try to get that fight. My prediction is that he won't go about it this way, though, right? I just think he won't, because I think he knows at this point that if he does, he won't take the fight. But here's Conor, just to demonstrate again. Dana wants the fight that much, and then this is how much Conor wants the fight. Watch.
But forget him for the minute. Like I said, January 18th, the return of a fully focused, notorious Conor McGregor will take place in the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada. Ask the UFC who the opponent is, because I do not give a fuck. I am going to go through the entire roster like a chainsaw through butter. Make no mistake about that.
And he was once again unapologetic, taking shots at Khabib.
If you look at Khabib Nurmagomedov, he almost died on the scales making 155 pounds. Yet he wants to bring a former middleweight, a former welterweight down to make 155 pounds. It is the sign of a coward. But where is he right now? I believe he's out of the country. I fly in, he flies out. Typical of the Dagestani man. The man sniffs jockstraps for a living. He sniffs buttholes for a living. If you want to know what my ass smells like, just ask Khabib, because he smelled it for the entire first round.
Well, you're in Moscow today. Are you planning someday to go to Dagestan?
You know, I wouldn't go to Dagestan to take a shit, and that is the truth.
Conor is desperate for that rematch.
This is an inevitable rematch. He can run as long as he wants. He can try and throw featherweights or people that I've beaten in the past in front of me. But again, it is an inevitable rematch. He can run, but he cannot hide. So it is a heated rivalry. And I believe we will settle it someday soon.
Okay? So you're talking, like, that's like 2 months before he fought Cowboy. And then you got to wash the last 10 months off because, like, COVID. Nothing applies. Like we are basically back in time right when those interviews happen. So if you think the only missing piece here, you got a couple missing pieces. You got Conor needs to beat Dustin, which he will. And then Khabib needs to take the fight. But, I mean, the point that I've been making all along is that Dana's going to do everything he can to make that fight. And maybe Khabib won't do it. He doesn't have to. But tell me that that's not what Conor and Dana are trying to drive towards. Because, I mean, if you think that I'm wrong, you're wrong. Guaranteed. All right? Anyway, that's what I've got. So subscribe to the channel. Ring the bell. Peace.